It's Cinco de Mayo weekend, and you may be wondering why a Mexican holiday is so widely celebrated in the United States. Well, it isn't a Mexican holiday, it's actually a very American one, celebrated here since the 1860s. And in order to understand why, you need to understand two factors that were shaping the destiny of the nation at the time: the discovery of gold in California and everything that was at stake in the Civil War. With the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, California and other parts of the Southwest became American territories, and the Mexicans that were living there became American citizens. In 1849, gold was discovered in the mountains of Northern California, and with that, it brought an influx of about 300,000 white settlers, who, upon their arrival, began to squat on land owned by Mexicans. And in their greed, they eventually took those lands, sometimes by violence, sometimes by legal trickery. Now, while this invasion was going on in California, another invasion was going on in Mexico, motivated by the same type of greed. France sent a very highly trained, very professionally equipped army of about 6,000 to 8,000 soldiers. Their invasion point was the city of Puebla, where a much smaller, very ill-equipped Mexican army met them with heroic resistance and defeated them there on May 5th, 1862. And the Mexicans in California saw a parallel between what was happening in both places. The same kind of greed, the same kind of theft, the same kind of injustice. And they were inspired by the victory of Cinco de Mayo, that though they were small, resistance was possible. So they formed societies to aid one another in times of distress, physical distress, financial distress, or when their rights were being violated by white settlers. And they used the Cinco de Mayo celebrations as a rallying point, as a way to unite, to encourage one another in their common struggles, and as a way to protest the injustice they were suffering. And this is still relevant for us today. For while this administration assures us that minorities have nothing to fear, that minorities are not being treated unfairly, that the playing field is equal for everyone, at the same time, they are scrambling and exhausting themselves to put policies in place to ensure that white Americans do not become a minority. And it makes me wonder that if what they really fear is if they become a minority, will they be treated the way they've treated other minorities? And while they so easily vilify other immigrants who come here in search of a better life, broadly labeling them as violent criminals, yet never acknowledging the indisputably documented violence and crime they inflicted as they immigrated here. California is just one example out of many. But Cinco isn't just a reason for Mexicans to celebrate. It's for all Americans. For Cinco helped shape our nation into a better place for everyone. Because the French weren't just coming to set up an empire for themselves in Mexico. They were coming at the request of the Confederate forces in the South. The South was seeking recognition from France as a legitimate state, and also military aid to help them wage war against the North. The plan was to invade Mexico, establish themselves there, then march up and help the Confederacy. But the Mexican victory at Puebla on Cinco de Mayo impeded and threw a major wrench into those plans. For if the French armies would have made it to provide men and weapons to the South, we very likely would be living in a very different kind of country today. So as we celebrate Cinco, we need to remember this history. We need to recover the spirit of protest against injustice, and we need to realize that the world is a better place when these two nations work together as neighbors.